Hello, everybody. You are listening and watching the Good Day for a Movie podcast. I almost said the Deucecast movie show. I will tell you why I almost said that here in a little bit. But along with me, as always, Tate.
What's up?
And Sage.
Whoa.
That was
I told you I was going to do some production stuff here.
Yeah.
We're kind of trying to be professional. We're also joined by the man that used to be from down under. He is now in Iowa. He's repping the Iowa State shirt. Nate, how are we doing?
Good. Thanks for having me on.
Glad to have you on. So that is the reason I've almost said Deucecast. That's how you and I have gotten to know each other through their Discord and Twitter and whatnot. I've got my Deucecast patch right here, actually. I think I looked at it, and that was another reason why I almost said it. But anyways, we are live on YouTube for this episode, which means you can watch us. You can go watch like the rewind of this thing if you really want to. You see our ugly mugs and whatnot. Garrison, another Deucecast. He's more of a Deucecast member than we are. He's on the show a lot. Is also here in the YouTube comments with us. Before we get into this pick, Sage, I doubt that you actually prepared a question. So, because you don't look at our texts, what we are going to start doing is when we have guests on, we are going to ask them an easy movie questionnaire type of thing. So to give you time, I'm going to do our little GD for GD read here. So we are brought to you by GD for GD, and they are a clothing company. They have a bunch of cool stuff, beanies and whatnot as well. But the cool part about GD for GD, it was started by Tate. Every sale they have, $10 gets donated to a different nonprofit partner. This month it is Respite Care Incorporated. They're a nonprofit organization in Larimer County that provides short-term quality care for children with developmental disabilities and respite to their families, enabling them to enhance their quality of life. So go to gd4gd.com, pick up some gear if you find it cool. I find it cool. There's a podcast hoodie on there and whatnot. So yeah, let's get to this little questionnaire here.
Should we give a little background on why we got Nate on?
Yes, we should. That is a great idea. So Nate was the winner of our contest. Leave a review, send it to us, and I think we need to hold him at gunpoint because he won't accept the other two gifts. This is the only one he wanted.
We want to give him a hoodie and a movie.
I was like, save that for the next person. Do another contest.
Too nice.
Yes, much too nice. So yes, thank you, Nate, so much for participating.
Yeah, thank you.
I had a feeling that when you won, you would be picking an Australian movie. And that is what you did. We're not going to get there quite yet. Tate, go ahead and ask your first question.
Well, and so I really quick question. So you said you're from Sydney, right?
Sydney, yes.
Wow. Okay. So yeah, I love Sydney. And I have some more questions coming up later that I have a lot of probably like Australia related questions that'll come up during more of the review. But yeah, love Sydney. My question movie though wise is if there is one movie that you could completely forget and re-experience it for the first time again, like maybe one that had like a crazy twist or like a maybe, I don't know. You kind of get the gist. If there is one movie that you could completely forget and rewatch again and experience it fully, what would it be?
I would say it's probably the first Anchorman movie. I went in completely blind on that. I'd been working at a summer camp, so I hadn't seen any previews or anything. And someone was like, hey, let's go see this. And it was just hilarious. And
I wasn't even thinking about a comedy, so I love that answer.
Yeah. No, it blew my mind, like just from nowhere. So I was like, if I could see that again for the first time, that was amazing.
That's a really good pick.
That's a good answer.
Well, and I really like that because there are a lot of comedies that the first time I watch it, I'm like, oh my God, like it's the funniest thing ever. And then maybe the second time it like you know how funny it is. So it doesn't quite meet that like initial expectation. So I love that as an answer.
Okay, my question for you is, what is the best movie you've seen recently?
Recently. I've been rewatching a lot of like old movies that I hadn't seen in a while. And we threw on Blades of Glory the other day. And I'd forgotten how hilarious that was.
I like it.
That
But
was
as far
a
as
funny movie.
as far as new movies go, I would say Nobody.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's
I-
another one that sort of just really surprised me. I was like, oh, I think it's going to be this one thing, and then it turned into this whole other thing, and it was amazing in every way.
Yeah, that movie was an absolute blast. Nobody. I can't. What's the guy's name from Breaking Bad?
Bryan
Uh,
Cranston.
Nope. And Better Call Saul.
Odenkirk.
Yes,
Odenkirk.
Bob Odenkirk. Yep.
That's it.
He was just great in it. And I hope we get to see multiple of those, like we've seen multiple John Wicks.
Actually,
as he's-
my other friend whose name is Nate, he told me, he was like, you guys got to review this movie, Nobody. It's so good. So there it is again.
Do it.
Mm-hmm.
It's fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Sage, were you able to come up with a question?
I did. I came up with a personal and a movie, or Australia and a movie question. The Australia question: do toilets actually flush the opposite direction?
I met my now wife while I was working at a summer camp over here, and then I went back home to Australia for 9 months or so. So we would talk on the phone, and we tried it, not necessarily with the toilet, but like filled a sink with water and like let it drain, and it did. It went the opposite direction.
What?
I thought that was always a myth.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy.
There is some science thing about it, but it's legit.
Holy crap!
Wow.
that is shocking.
All right, my movie question is: who's your favorite actor or actress from Australia?
I mean, this might be giving a little away, but Heath Ledger. He
Boom.
gone way too early. Amazing. This maybe isn't his best work, but you could see the potential there. But
Mhm.
he was
Absolutely.
very good.
Well, let's get into this thing, Nate. It is your pick. We have watched the movie, so we could do this entire thing live. Before we get to your pick, Michael does have a question for you. Have you ever held a wombat?
They are very large and angry animals, but they are my favorite because they have the coolest like defense mechanism. They have a giant like bone across their butt. So when an animal attacks them, they go into their burrow and then they like back out real quick and like smash the animals in the face.
That's crazy.
A
That's
good
cool.
gut punch.
Wombats are awesome.
I did get to hold a small, tiny little wombat, but it was like a little baby. It was nice. But I've heard that the larger ones can get,
They're like pig sized.
yeah.
My favorite Australian fact is that like all koalas have chlamydia.
Pretty much.
Yeah, I think I've heard that. Yeah.
Crazy. Okay. Anyways, enough about chlamydia and not enough about Australia because it is your pick and you did pick an Australian movie for us to watch and review.
I did. When I found out I won the contest, I had a list of about 20 movies I wanted to do. But then yesterday was actually Australia Day. So I was like, I got to narrow it down to an Australian movie. So there's, Crocodile Dundee, Strictly Ballroom, Priscilla, Queen of the Desert.
Kangaroo Jack.
That's not an Australian movie. Are you trying to make me leave?
Look, I tried on my way here. I went to the liquor store in hope of finding a Foster's because I've heard like real Australians don't actually like Foster's, and it was going to be a whole bit, and I was going to be like Australian for beer. I said I wouldn't do the accent. That's the last time I'm going to try. I promise. But they didn't have any. I was very disappointed in that.
That's a good thing. That's not good beer. But I ended up picking my second favorite Australian movie called Two Hands, and it is based in and around Sydney, which is where I'm originally from. It's just, Crocodile Dundee is like a big Australian movie, and everyone thinks of Australia like that, but that's the outback, and that's not where I was from. I visited there; it's beautiful, but I'm from Sydney, and Two Hands is like a very Sydney movie. So I was like, we got to go with this one.
Nice. Well, I think it was a very fun pick, if nothing else. And spoiler alert, I did enjoy myself watching it. Here's a synopsis. A 19-year-old finds himself in debt to a local gangster when some gang loot disappears and sets him on the run from thugs. Meanwhile, two street kids start a shopping spree when they find the missing money. I don't know if that's the most apt description of this movie, but it's the best way to describe it without spoiling it, I think.
Now that I've seen it, it's funny that the two kids made it into the synopsis.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mhm.
yeah, and then also, so yeah, Heath Ledger, as we said, whatever her name is that I
Rose-
know.
Rose Burns,
Yep, she's great.
Brian Brown.
Yes,
I didn't really know much of the
I
other names,
recognized him. I don't know from where though, I guess.
I think the biggest movie he was in was Cocktail with Tom Cruise.
Okay. And see, I don't think I've ever seen that, but he's just one of those guys that you just kind of recognize.
He's
if
been
you've
in a bunch of
seen a lot
things.
movies, I guess. Yeah. There is another Star Wars connection that we will get to later, but
And the movie is 1999, right?
Yes.
okay. So this is the other thing that we needed to bring up is last night I watched the movie. Last night Sage watched the movie. Neither of us realized what Tate realized. He went to. We both rented on Amazon Prime. That was the only place you could rent it. It's also streaming on Hoopla. I couldn't even stream it on or rent it on Apple Plus or on whatever that streaming platform's called. The version on Amazon Prime says it's from 2005.
And it says that it's an hour and like 27, which
Yes.
when I originally found it, it said that like the original is from 1999 and it's an hour and 40 something. So we were confused.
Yes.
I think
So
mine said 99.
No, me and
Mm-mm.
Jacob double checked today.
I just double checked my Fire Stick too. I looked on my computer and
wasn't
Fire
able-
Stick, and
I wasn't able to rent the 1999 version or like
What
the
do you
1999 one,
mean?
but I was able to rent the 2005 one. And I did like a quick Google, and I think it just said that I don't know like what they would have cut out, but it just said that it wasn't released in the United States until 2005. So
I think there's a big scene at the end, which I don't. Maybe we can get to that later.
okay,
but
yeah.
like,
Let's
okay,
let's throw it there right now so we can get to it quicker. So we will see you on the other side, and we're back. Yes, so I don't have a clever way to bring us in. I never do on the live ones because my mind doesn't think that fast. But yes, I enjoyed this movie. The first, I don't know, half hour, 45 minutes or so, I was like, am I going to have to flame Ozzy Nate's movie? like, oh no. And then the last part of it, they just kind of brought everything together really well. And it was a really fun, kind of crazy ending.
yeah, and initial thoughts, I guess, is we're like kind of going around the horn real quick.
Mhm.
I love this film. I think there's a lot of things that I really like about it, but the first one's being kind of what Jacob was kind of leading to, which was how well everything was connected, all of these different little storylines. And the other thing that I really liked about it is kind of this like where his brother and the kind of the third wall that he breaks at the very beginning, and then also kind of throughout the film shows up more and more, and it explains some more. I don't know, and it gives a little bit more depth, I think, to the film too. But yeah, very and very just fun film to watch. I think like very enjoyable across the board, funny, but yeah. Nothing.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Michael, come on.
No truer words can be said than those.
Take it back, please.
Nate, your initial thoughts.
I mean, my initial thoughts were
Yes.
years and years ago,
Mhm.
but I just love this movie. It's been about 8 years since I was able to make it home, because I've got a daughter now, and COVID and everything sort of kept me away. But it was, it brought a little tear to my eye, just reminder of home, and it's just such a good story. I mean, we'll probably get into that in a little bit, but the acting is not the finest, but I mean, low budget, first couple of movies for everyone involved pretty much. So a lot to be forgiven there, but it's just fun. It's very Australian. It's my Australia.
Yep.
What I'm used to, and I love it.
Sage?
Yeah, I really enjoyed it from pretty much beginning to end. I also love Heath Ledger, so that was an easy, hard to dislike it from the beginning when you see Heath Ledger's face. So I was also super caught. I didn't see the cast, so when I saw Rose Byrne, I was like, I know her. She's a megastar. Like, how is she in this movie?
Yeah.
And yeah, I think overall, it was very enjoyable. The writing was well done. It kept you guessing and interested pretty much the whole way through. Outside of that, I mean, yeah, I think it's a fantastic movie to watch.
Yeah, before it just bursts out of me, I have to mention this second Star Wars connection. The first, of course, being Rose Byrne. Rose Byrne was in Attack of the Clones. She played Dorme, Natalie Portman, Padme's double, pretty much. She's the one that dies at the beginning of Attack of the Clones. The other connection is also from Attack of the Clones. Okay, Susie Porter, who plays Deirdre, is also in Attack of the Clones, but she is a voice of somebody. She is the voice of Dexter Jettster's server droid. I did not write it down, but
Who's Deidre?
Yes.
The redhead
Deirdre
girl.
is the voice of Dexter Jettster's like server
That's
droid.
thinking, yep.
Hey,
Okay.
honey, you want a cup of Java juice? That one. So I was shocked when I saw it because I like clicked on her name on IMDb and I was like, who is this person? She didn't look familiar, but I was like, has she been in anything? And then Attack of the Clones popped up and I was like, oh my God, this is crazy.
Well, all the prequel movies
Yep.
shot in around Sydney, so
Yep.
a lot of Australian actors just jumped in and did different things in that.
Huh. I don't know that. Is Rose Byrne Australian, I assume?
Yes.
Yeah.
I didn't know that either. Very cool.
Yes.
I think,
okay.
I think this
so
was her first movie too.
I think so. Yes. I think she might have been in like one other one as like an extra before this, but that was about it. Okay. Where do we want to start off with, characters or plot first?
Well, I think maybe just like plot, because I think there's
Okay.
a couple things right off the bat at the beginning of the movie that I'll highlight as things that I liked that either, that they just come back to, or that just show up a lot. Which the two ones that stand out are, well, I think the very first note I guess I made was that the intro was so 90s. And It was electric.
It was awesome.
All the flames and like I forget it, like even the music now, but it just felt like rock and roll, and it was just like so I did write down that intro was awesome. But I think I like and I think the very first scene that you see is what you see later, where he's getting pulled out of the car, he's all beat up, and the gangsters are kind of like trying to figure out where their money is and everything like that, and cuts to him about to be shot, and then it starts the movie. And so I was kind of like, ooh, okay, I like that as an intro. I love it. I mean, there's a lot of movies that do that, but that was really well done. And then right off the bat, like I think it was right after then the credits was the scene with the brother, because the credits kind of feed into that. So it's like the brother then who breaks the third wall or whatever that's called, where he talks to the audience and he like explains his whole yin and yang and good and evil and life is the place between heaven and hell and all that like kind of philosophical stuff. But I loved how kind of it felt very Australian, how it was like just raw. Like it wasn't like very poetic in like the words. He was just like, oh yeah, fucking bloody hell, it's this blah blah. And he was anywho. So I liked the brother's character and you kind of get to know, or you at least know who he is, and you know that he's dead and he's crawling his way back up and like through the earth's crust, it looks like. But so anywho, as like the start to the movie, I was pretty hooked. I loved all of that. And then it just goes, it gets better from there. But I guess, yeah. Any other thoughts on the first couple intros?
Yeah, I thought that it started off just incredibly slow. I think I have like it slow and meandering, and just kind of random things were happening. And you're like, what are we doing watching these kids? And then finally, as the movie like kind of starts to kick into gear, everything gets connected, and I'm like, oh, this all makes a lot of sense. The acting didn't bother me at all. I know we'll get there later about like talking about like actual performances and whatnot, but yeah, I went like the last 45 minutes of this movie was a lot of fun. Like just plot wise, and how like the friend gets hit by the car. Spoiler alert. Did not see that coming, first off. And second off, I was like, what the hell does this have to do with anything? Like, I get that the people that hit the kid are the people going after him and whatnot, but I was like, I couldn't find the connection.
Well, I really like. I mean, kind of building off that real quick is one thing throughout the plot that I liked is the interconnection of all these little stories, but it's the kind of the two kids, and how their lives kind of keep dabbling back and forth into not necessarily like the same life as these like as Pando, but with the people that are involved with Pando. And I like how they kind of give them their own scenes every now and then. Like the first time you meet them, they're talking about like Aboriginals and like Australia and growth and the city and everything like that. But then they just go rob the person that later gets them connected. So they're kind of thieves, and that kind of sets them up. But then they get connected to being on the bus because of that. They get connected to being on the bus running to Bondi, and then because they're at Bondi, they see Heath Ledger on the beach, and then because they steal the money, and I think there is the quote there that he said about the butterfly effect of when one little mistake leads to a ripple of a bunch of other things happening. And I think that that's kind of the theme in the movie, is that all of these bad things, everything that happened because he chose to go take a swim and leave the money
chase the girl
that wasn't the girl. But yeah, I think that that's kind of the first thing plot wise that comes to mind, is how interconnected all these little characters were, and how everything that happened because of this one instance.
Can I go back to the dead brother for a minute?
Yes.
So the first couple of times I watched the movie, because I've probably seen this, I don't know, 15, 20 times, that I like hated that. Like the brother just seemed so out of place, and like it was in a different movie. But the more I watch it, the more I'm like, oh, I get what like this is here for, and what it's bringing to the story, and how it's sort of filling in some gaps and stuff like that. But that's the one piece that is sort of like universally panned by critics about the movie, is they all hate like that brother character and what he's doing in it.
That's interesting to hear. I loved it.
Nate, have you listened to yesterday's Deucecast yet?
Yes.
Okay, because Jeremy Burgess watched this movie, and I think he made a mistake. He thought the brother was the same character that Heath Ledger was playing.
Yes, and I wanted to immediately point that out, but I was just talking to myself in my car. So
I was like, wait, I just watched this movie, and I don't think that's right. So it's not only, I guess, it's not super popular character, but a confusing one for some people as well, I guess.
Yeah, and like I think there's one time they mention, like when they're going to shoot Heath Ledger's character, Jimmy, that they talk about the brother, and they say his name, Michael. But other than that, I think even in the credits, he's just listed as the man or something.
And I think at the beginning there, when like he says something about his tattoos, and him and his brother have the same tattoos and whatnot. And so I was like, Jeremy, how could you do that? But anyways, that's an Easter egg for Deucecast listeners.
Well, and I think that they like, I thought that he wasn't going to have that big of a role. I thought that he was just kind of be the narrator throughout the whole thing. But then later you kind of find out that he is kind of like the guardian angel of Jimmy, which I thought was really cool. I think it's cool that they kind of brought that in. It's hard to probably show it and do it. Like, I mean, when he was on the train and he was I think he was leaving. Yeah. And they kind of showed like the visually, like Heath Ledger was in pain, and the guy and his brother was outside, was like, all right, well, now you're on your own. But that was like the only time I think that they really kind of showed it from Heath Ledger's side, but they kind of showed it with like the guy in his laundry. And I don't know, just kind of little things that make you think back to earlier in the movie about maybe how he's just been protecting Heath Ledger in Sydney.
Well, and there's one scene where you see like a picture of like young Heath Ledger and the brother sort of together. And I think that's meant to help like connect that, but it's not very clear in a lot of ways.
Yep.
Sage, I know you're a big fan of movies tying loose ends and whatnot together. And so I'm assuming you liked that about this movie.
Very much so. Yeah. And I like it when, well, I was going to quickly mention that I did like the older brother's role in the whole movie. I thought that aspect of the movie was better than every single aspect of Melancholia. I think it was a great part of or a great role of the movie. Going back to tying loose ends, I imagine whoever wrote this movie probably did it like a detective does the tying of kind of people's interactions with each other, with the yarn and like they meet at this point, twist it, and then move. Because that's kind of how this movie felt. Like it wasn't that the points in time where they interact with each other were unnatural or were forced. They just felt like two different people who happened to meet each other at this place. It felt very kind of, it flowed well, almost like two streams connecting and then separating and then connecting again down the mountain later. Like it really worked together, and it kept you guessing. Kind of in my opening statements, it kept you guessing, kind of like, okay, so this is how we got here with these random characters. Are we done, or are we going to see how it finishes? And we pretty much saw how it ended with every single set of characters and important interaction between them, regardless of if they're main characters or side characters. And I, like a quick example of that was the man who the boy bought the gun from was in the bank that got robbed, and his bill got taken by Heath Ledger's character, which got returned to Pando, which got returned back to the boy. Like that is just an example of a little bit of loose end tying to just like the micro degree, as well as, I mean, they had all the macro stuff too. So it was very well done at the writing end.
Well, and I think that they like made all of these little connections. Like you'd have to pay attention to catch them. Like the kids when they're hopping on the bus. Like I don't know if you guys caught, but it said like the bus like sign said like Bondi Beach as they're like hopping on it. And so then like, and then the bus takes off. And so like, and then I don't know, like, and then when they steal, the little kid steals the guy's wallet. Then the first, like, and then it cuts to a few other scenes. And then when it cuts back to the kids, like it just shows him kind of holding the wallet, but they don't really focus on that. So there's a lot of like little details that I think weren't made to be super obvious about it, but I liked how it, I mean, it was there, but kind of not, they weren't shining the light on it.
Yeah, the guy who directed and wrote this movie, his name is Gregor Jordan, and looks like this is the first movie he really did. He directed like 3 episodes of random TV shows and a couple shorts. But the movie after this one that he did in 2001, it's called Buffalo Soldiers, and it stars Joaquin Phoenix, Anna Paquin, Ed Harris, Scott Glenn, Michael Pena. I want to watch that movie now.
And I've heard of that before. I've never seen it, but it's one I've definitely heard of.
So is he an Australian director?
He is, but I don't think he really works in Australia anymore. I think he has made the move over here.
Cool.
Interesting.
I think he did like a Heath Ledger tribute as well. Like some sort of movie.
Yeah, let's see. I remember that. I just can't find it. But go ahead, Tate.
Well, I was just going to say there's a lot of other, I mean, probably as we work our way down the movie, we could talk about more too. But one question, like Australia related question that you've already kind of hit on a little bit, but you said that this reminded you a lot of growing, like, did this remind you a lot of like growing up in Australia? Like, did you kind of, I don't know if like you'd maybe see a lot of this on the streets or like, I don't know, kids, maybe it's just like a normal city as other places where you kind of see this like little petty crime every now and then, or like they have like their versions of the gangs and everything. But so did this remind you, was this a pretty accurate description of or portrayal of Sydney?
Yeah, like I think when this movie came out, I was like 15 or 16. So I was sort of at the peak age to sort of getting in trouble on the streets and stuff. And, it definitely reminded me. I didn't grow up like that close to the city. We're probably about 45 minutes away, closer to the beach and stuff. But, there's definitely a lot of like street kids. Homelessness is pretty big in Sydney, especially amongst like kids. So there are these like groups of like young kids sort of living on the streets and stealing things and whatnot to survive. So that was very like accurate and true of the time. But as far as like the gangs and stuff, a lot of the movie takes place in King's Cross, which is like the red light district of Sydney, and that is got like a long history of some like violent crimes and stuff like that. There's a TV show, Underbelly, and it's all about like crime in Australia and stuff like that. And they had a season that was all about King's Cross, and it was really good. So if you ever see that, definitely check it out. But yeah, it's pretty accurate. It definitely felt that way. Me and my buddies went into the cross one night, and at the beginning where he's standing there trying to get people to come in to the shows and stuff.
Yep.
That's 100% what it's like. And it's like, oh, I'll give you $20 off. Just come on in. Just use my name. And that's people's job, just to draw you in. And it felt very Sydney. That's what I've said before. That's why I picked it. It's a very Sydney movie.
Mm-hmm. Have you seen them?
Yes.
It's a movie that you have. Okay. It's a movie that Michael's been trying to get me to watch since one of the characters from it, Jackie Weaver, showed up in Yellowstone. And
if you like this, you'll love.
Okay.
Nice.
Because she was nominated for an Oscar for that movie, right?
I don't know. I've seen that just once or twice. I think they made a like US version of it, like a TV show.
Yes, I saw that on my Google search, and yes, she was nominated for an Oscar. Let's see, Guy Pearce is in it, Joel Edgerton, and probably a bunch of other.
The
Ben
guy,
Mendelsohn.
Yep, that's it.
Yep. So yeah, there's another Australian recommendation, Animal Kingdom, for anybody out there that also liked this movie, which I think I'm going to finally watch Animal Kingdom at some point this week.
Do it.
Yeah, that is really interesting, because it is always, when you've got these movies that are kind of focusing on crime, it's interesting to see how true to life they may or may not be. And like, obviously things have changed a lot between 2021 and we're in 2022, between 2022 and 1999. But that's interesting about this kind of took place in the red light district, where things are probably a little bit sketchier than touristy Sydney area.
And I'm glad you said that, because like I mean none of us would have really known what King's Cross is, or that it is like a red light district. I would have just been like in my head, that was just like, oh, this is just in Sydney. Like I have no idea of like conception of where in Sydney this is, or
it's a little bit away from like the city itself.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's like all connected, but it's not like where the tourists would go.
Mm-hmm.
When I was there, I did go out to a 3-story club, but Sydney, it was like, it was like downtown, and I don't think it was in the red light district.
You know if you're in the cross.
Yeah.
Okay, so I did want to touch on this before we got too far in and I forget about it. The whole 1999 versus 2005 thing, and 15 minutes missing from the movie that the three of us watched.
15 minutes?
Yeah, it's about about that, shorter.
Oh, wow.
And you said that it was coming in at the end, so I kind of want to go through like maybe some other major plot points before kind of getting to the end, because there's a couple other things that I either have questions about or just want to maybe talk about if there's more to. One question though is, when we meet, what was her name? Jeanette? No, Deidre?
Yes, yeah.
Deidre. When we meet her, so she was Michael's
wife.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
And who is the guy is that like her new husband, or is he just a friend?
Like a business associate.
Yeah, a guy that used to pull off banks with her husband, I think. Yeah.
Her and her husband. Okay. Because like I wasn't sure because you kind of got that she used to date him in some way, because she was like, I made a promise to him that I'd protect you. But then like when this other guy came on the scene, I was like, oh wait, what? I was like, who is this guy? But okay, that makes some sense. And then, so I guess my other thing plot wise that I thought that I liked the way that it played out, that I thought it was going to go differently, was that scene where, we kind of hit on it earlier. There's two things. First one was when the little kid gets hit by the car. That
sniped.
comes out of nowhere. And that was like, this movie was very almost, I mean, for being about crime and violence, that was like the instant that it got dark. Like nobody like, I guess like that you follow had died yet. I don't even think you'd see anybody get killed yet. They just talked about like people that this guy Pando has killed. But that was the first thing that, and it happens so fast, and it's a kid, and the guy just immediately like is worried about his car.
He doesn't even look at the kid.
Yeah, doesn't even look at the kid, and then pulls the kid off of the road, and then just keeps driving. And his buddy's like, dude, he's like, even for us, that's like whoa. So that is like the first thing that I did not see coming, and that was dark.
Yeah, not for the faint of heart. That was rough.
Yeah, that was a very dark scene, and like I was confused when we saw, was that a guy or a girl kid that did not get hit? That was a girl, right?
I think so.
The one who didn't get hit.
Yes.
Yeah, that was a girl.
When we saw her oh my gosh, Heath Ledger's, when Jimmy was about to get shot in the head, I was like, and she didn't like kill everybody there. I was like, wait, what's happening? Why is she there?
That was the other time that I thought was going to go differently. I thought that's when she was going to kill everybody.
And they even fake you out with her like holding the gun like that, and then it cuts away and the gun like explodes, and you're like, did she just shoot the gun? That was crazy. And then you're like, oh no, it's the bad bullets. Which that was a funny scene.
That was very funny. You put them through the wash.
It's like, how old are you?
He's like, oh, you put him through the wash with that, and the other guy's like, that shouldn't harm him. These bullets were made to go through a swamp.
The banter in this movie is really good.
Mm-hmm.
Jake, I'm sorry. I just noticed Jacob kind of sounds like Shrek when he does an Australian accent.
I'm not good at accents. Okay.
But that was the other thing that I was going to point out, is those two kind of that didn't go the way that I thought they were. And that was the kid getting hit by the car. And then that scene, I thought that was the point where she's going to kill at least the guy that ran over her friend. And that's how Heath Ledger is going to get away. But that didn't happen either. And so that was the two plot wise points where it did fool me a little bit. Because I mean, you see Heath Ledger going out with the girl, and you see him getting caught, and like all that stuff. Like you see how it leads up to him being in trouble and having the gun to his head. But it was those two things that were kind of surprises. And then I actually didn't see him doing the bank robbery at that point. I thought he was going to try and do the bank robbery before getting caught, and then like somehow that was going to go wrong and he was going to get caught. But once he was caught, I was like, oh, I totally kind of forgot about this bank robbery plot. So I liked that was another favorite scene though.
The bank robbery scene like definitely gave me some like Dark Knight flashbacks. Like I felt like the mannerisms and some of the stuff he was doing, like just with his body, felt very much like the Joker at the beginning of the Dark Knight. And I was like, I can see where this came from.
When his friend slips and hit his head, like passed out, I lost it. I was like, what in the world? This is like just so random.
I thought
it was awesome.
I thought he died.
I thought he broke his neck and he was dead.
Yeah, I was sure he was dead.
Especially after they did the whole kid getting hit by the car. I was like, oh, they have no problem having this person just, get whacked.
But I also laughed very, very hard when Heath Ledger turned and shot the camera, and he turned to Heath and he was like, nice.
Nice move.
Nice move, yeah.
Well, and that's another like little loose end, because they like talk about it beforehand. He's like, yeah, you could do this if you want. And he was just like, I don't know, show off a little bit, work the crowd. I like how he called it, work the crowd.
Have some fun with it.
Yeah, they treat it like you're like, I don't know, going to do stand up or like sell a car. They're like, yeah, you just gotta like get to know the person, get them to like trust you before you say, give me all the money or else I'm gonna kill you all.
I mean, in their defense, all of the customers and the bankers were pretty indifferent that they were there until Heath shot the shotgun. Then they dropped quick.
Huh?
Yeah, they were like, "Oh no, it's serious."
Heath ended up giving a quick whack to the ribs.
Yep.
That guy was still pretty like, he's like, yeah, whatever, man. He's like, whatever, you're fine. But that bank robbery scene was great, and I didn't even think about some Heath Ledger Joker vibes. I didn't. But now that you say it, he kind of like the way he's kind of like just kind of looking around and kind of awkwardly moving around. That fit very well.
And
This is a quick tangent,
yes.
but Nate, Heath Ledger's performance as a Joker is like, I think, the greatest acting performance ever. So you bringing
Agreed.
that up, I totally see what you're talking about. And yeah, I mean, yeah, that's all I want to say about that. But just bringing it up, it's like, God, I love Heath Ledger as Joker. It's crazy.
He did like the shoulder shrug thing.
Yeah.
I was like,
yeah.
yeah.
Kind of the walk, like the
Yeah.
length. Yeah. He has long arms, by the way.
Yeah.
I noticed that too. His hands are like down to his knees. It's crazy.
I did not notice that. I did like the following part when they're running from or driving away from the cops and they win the radio contest. They bring that back around.
Yeah.
And as a radio
I'm so
guy,
happy they did.
well, when does anything? What do you mean anything? We reviewed My Left Foot on this movie, on this podcast. So not anything. Daniel Day-Lewis is good, but not anything.
I don't know. My left foot was pretty good.
Not Dark Knight level good.
No, but
I mean, it was
I'm-
better than Kirsten Dunst in Melancholia.
oh my gosh. No, but I'm glad that you brought up the giveaway because I love when he first loses the money and he is like he's in the car with his I don't know, his DJ or whatever, but he was just like, how am I going to get this money? What am I going to do? And she was like, and on the radio it's just like, oh well, if you do this, you'll win 10 grand, like the exact amount he's looking for. And I like how they just kind of dangle that in front of you the entire time and never give it the light of day to he never even gives it a thought. He never even tries to do it. He never even, I thought he was going to have some plot to try and find out who won it and then rip it off of them. But
well, there's another scene like that where he's going to the bar to meet Rose Byrne's character. There's a big sign. I don't know if you noticed it, but it said win $10,000.
Oh,
And they showed it at least twice, just right there. And I was like, see, there's another chance he had to get out of this, but didn't take it.
that's a good way to say it. Like he had his chance to not to figure out a way to not do harm and rob a bank and have a chance at getting his money back, but he doesn't take it. And I completely missed that sign. So that makes me even want to rewatch this movie again and just kind of look for even more little nuggets.
Look, I know what Michael is doing right now. When they're doing the Deuce Cast Extra, I like to cause mayhem. And that's all he's doing right now. I know he doesn't believe this. And he also knows my hate for Jared Leto. And I think most of our hates for Jared Leto.
I mean, it's one of those comments where you just disregard it because I know they're wrong. They know they're wrong. Everyone knows they're wrong.
So as a radio guy, as a radio guy who knows what good content is, it is my dream to have that happen to me. Have them run me off the road when I was like, oh, you look like you guys won, and they just run you off the road. That's excellent content. I mean, nothing gets better than that.
I love how they turned it around to that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, and then that at that point too, I thought he was gonna be like, "Oh wow, we won," and he's gonna be all happy, but he just runs him off the road and keeps driving. He's like,
because they turned down the radio, so they didn't hear the whole "we're right next to you, wait, we're waving at you."
Oh, I thought he could still hear it, and I thought he just was like, "Fuck this, we have our
They
money."
had turned down the radio right after they said, they're right behind the car. Here's a license plate. They obviously don't know what the license plate is. And they turned down the car right when they said what area of town they were in.
And so then when he was saying, we're right next to you. Okay.
So they couldn't hear any of that. Yep.
Was that a thing over here? Looking for bumper stickers?
Yes.
Was it?
It's in bigger markets. It is in Denver, they would do stuff like that. I know in Chicago, they would do stuff like that. That's where my radio teachers were from, was Chicago and Denver. So that's why I know about those two cities. But I don't know if it still happens, but stuff like that where you've got your promotional team out there doing stupid crap and whatnot still happens.
Because they used to do that stuff all the time. And I don't remember the last time I heard that on the radio or something. But it was always oh, got to get your bumper sticker and hope you're driving around. But
so that was super common in Sydney?
I don't know about super common, but it felt like I'd heard it many times.
I think that's a really clever from a radio station's perspective, and I think that's cool that growing up in Sydney, it's something that you actually would remember or recognize that you're like, oh yeah, this definitely happened in my daily life.
Mm-hmm. Let's see there. Then when they finally get home, it also seemed like really easy to rob a bank in Australia. I don't know if the like, you know what I mean? Like the cops just like weren't really chasing them. There was only one cop car, or at least I should just say in this movie. Maybe I shouldn't generalize Australia like that.
I feel like we do better now.
yes.
We
We're
learned
in
from this
2022.
movie.
Security's been beefed up a little bit since 1999. That's a fair point. But they get home, and the guy like puts the shotgun over there, and he's like, "Don't touch it," to his kid, and his kid just like crawls over when they're having their moment of silence, and he just pulls the trigger. That scared the crap out of me.
But he was only mad because he's like, Dad's got a splitting head.
Yeah.
He wasn't like mad that he's playing with a shotgun or anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a good scene.
And so that might be, so I guess we can talk real quick about maybe the last, because I think that character is going to be a good segue for me into another, not plot wise, but kind of character, deeper meaning and like themes that you see in this film. But I think now would be a good time to cover the 15 minutes that we apparently didn't see.
Well, because I watched it on Hoopla.
Yep.
Did you all rent it?
Yes.
I read it on Prime. Yeah.
I hate commercials.
There's no commercials on Hoopla. You just need
really?
a library card membership.
See, I don't read, so I'm not a member at a library.
But the
should've got
scene, from what I could find out looking online, was, did you see at the end the brother turning and sort of seeing like sun shining down like from heaven and then trying to run to it?
Mm-mm.
Okay, so he does that, and then like hands come up from the earth and like grab him and trip him and then pull him down.
Oh, so kind of like he's trying to get to heaven.
Yep, and then he gets pulled down
He
below
pulls
instead. Yep.
Huh. Yeah, definitely didn't, because I just finished the movie like before we started this, so I definitely didn't see that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
I mean, but that wasn't 15 minutes, so I don't know.
yeah, I wonder if
Without
there was
the-
just a few other things that they just cut out for
Yeah.
an American release for some reason, that some production person, whoever got the rights to the North American distribution, was like, Americans aren't going to get these jokes.
And was there a lot of swearing in your version?
Tons. Yeah.
The one I watched, it was all like edited out and stuff.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I don't know if that was a Hoopla thing or
That has to be a Hoopla thing.
That's probably
yeah.
a
gotta
good
be.
thing. If
Yeah,
they're
this is
library
very-
card related, yeah, they're probably like,
That's
No
crazy.
cursing.
yeah, it was
It's-
a lot of
that's-
bloody, but that was about it.
Yeah.
Oh, no, this was a very, very Australian vulgar film. Like,
And that's what I
dialogue.
remembered, and I was like, "What is happening?" Like,
My favorite line was when Heath Ledger escaped, and Pando said it to somebody, or somebody said it about Pando or to Pando. I can't remember exactly who said it, but he's madder than a cut snake line. I was like, that's just a fantastic Australian saying right there.
Madder than a cut snake.
I was like, I don't know what that means, but I like it a lot, and I wish I could say it the way he said it.
well, I do know from experience, if you cut a snake in half with a shovel, not happy.
Well, I wouldn't be happy either.
we one time we had a rattlesnake that was on a property, and we had to like kill it and get rid of it, and because we were like trying to sell it, and we had a shovel and we like chopped the head off the snake, and the body I remember moved for days.
Oh
like
yeah, that's crazy.
2 days, and it was like our one of our friends tried to like sell the head for venom to the not as like a underground drug thing, like like
I
the
feel like toxicology,
Yeah,
like animal
to
toxicology,
make more like
antivenom.
antivenom out of it, but they were like, no, we're not doing that. So that's the only time that I've ever done it, but
Yeah, we would do it and then like put it on a neighbor's doorstep and ring the bell. And it's like, moving around.
Only in Australia.
That's so much better than these like Instagram videos you see going around like on the golf course when they attach like a fake
Those are pretty
rubber
funny.
snake to somebody's like back with a fishing line and they can't see it, and you think it's chasing them. That's much better because that snake was alive just a little bit ago.
Yeah,
That's
you
good.
actually got to go kill it.
And I feel like it's way nicer than a paper bag full of dog poop that's lit on fire. Way nicer too.
A little scarier, but nicer.
Scarier, but like you're not going to get a bunch of dog poop on your shoes.
Yeah. So I guess if those are like the few things that we're kind of missing from the film, I guess the only two other things that I think I'd like to cover, which are I think I'd like to end with maybe some of the funniest moments, which we've kind of talked about a couple of them. But one of the other themes that I want to cover real quick is what his brother kind of mentioned, I think at the beginning, where with the yin and yang. And he was saying everybody like who's bad has a little bit of good in them, and everyone who's good has a little bit of bad in them. I love that they threw that in there because I think it shows up in all of the characters. Like, so, and I'll just rattle off. And I think the only one that I can't really relate it to yet is Rose. What's her name? Rose Byrne.
Alex. Yeah, that's why I had to put a look on my face. I was like,
but I like Heath Ledger to me is the good with a little bit of bad in him. Pando is the bad with a little bit of good. And then there's like even the guy that helps him rob the bank is kind of bad with a little bit of good. All of the kids, like they seem just like kids, like they're not really like they're doing it because they're trying to survive on the streets.
Desperate.
Yeah. But they're not like they're bad with a little bit of good.
You could almost say that the girl at the end is good with a little bit of bad.
yeah.
So I think,
and then even Akko, like he doesn't have many like good qualities in him, but like he loves that car, and I guess love is maybe a good quality.
Well, and
I was trying to think because Akko was going to be the one that would be like just bad.
With that car, he loved his car.
He did.
Yeah, that car was loved.
the one that wasn't really good at all to me was the guy who was the doorman with him at the bar, like at the night.
Les.
That guy didn't really have any other good side to him, like agenda, other than he was just kind of a I don't know, like he was just squirmy and didn't like. It was almost like a little like Gollum type of character where he just kind of was always around helping other people do whatever they want.
He's trying to position himself to make it work out. Whatever was trying to get him to get into a good situation, but it always backfired on him.
Yep. And the person that robbed Akko's car is the other person that I was like, they're just bad. They just robbed the car, tried to sell it, got caught.
It's kind of tough luck. To that, the car he was stealing was a guy who was very willing to kill him.
Yeah.
Like immediately, you see him getting grabbed and then just sinking to the ocean.
Yeah.
That was tough.
I did like the whole when they captured Jimmy and Akko was like, "You have my keys," and he's just like, "Yeah, here you go."
Yeah.
Like, he still had his keys on him. What I think I liked most about this movie was Jimmy and Alex's, Heath Ledger and Rose Byrne's like kind of relationship, which again is something you don't get until kind of the end of the movie. But when they're on their like kind of first date at the bar, they had good chemistry for sure. And then when they're on the monorail, I thought that was some pretty good acting, and definitely what you're talking about with like the shreds of the stars that these people would kind of become, and whatnot. And then the last scene we saw was them buying the ticket at the airport. And
yeah, and I think that's the last scene in mine.
okay,
the brother getting pulled down is like just
Right.
before that.
okay, gotcha.
I did like that was a little funny line, but when she was like, "Oh, what are you going to plan on paying for with bananas?"
When he's like, the guy's like, "How are you going to pay for this?" And he's like, "Money." He's like, "No, cash or card." And he's like, "Oh, well, I'll go cash or whatever he said." He's
Well,
like,
and I feel like you can picture him being kind of nervous because he's like, he just robbed a bank and he's got a bunch of cash, and the guy's asking how he's going to pay. He's like, what do you mean?
With a little Easter egg, they're like heading to the North Coast. And the North Coast is home of the big banana. So ties into the banana thing as well. So
okay. So Australia has like the world's biggest banana, and
I mean it's fiberglass, but it's
okay. And
got lots
Kansas has the biggest ball of twine.
We have lots of big things. It's
Okay.
like every city tries to have a big something so they can be
What's
tourist
Sydney's?
spot. I don't think Sydney has one, but like as you're going like up the coast, like there's the big pineapple, the big sheep,
Hmm.
This is a bunch of them.
Interesting.
Wow, weirdly across the world. I was in
Yeah.
Switzerland, and there's a giant fork for some reason, and there's like it is like a piece of art right by the lake, and
And
it
that-
was probably like 15 feet tall, and that was
That
just
stuff
like,
is all over America. Largest ball of paint.
isn't
I
there
think
like the
that's in-
largest cow or
Yeah,
something?
there's just all of that stuff everywhere. That I thought that was going to be a uniquely American thing of people trying to pull these roadside attraction.
Nope. Anything you guys do, we'll try as well.
Okay, let's see.
Well, and I have one last little thing
Yes.
on the like the good and evil part is the parenting shown by the guy that like the dad with the shotgun and also Panda.
Waza.
Yeah, Waza, is that his name?
Yep.
There's a couple names that I could not pick up, and like Pando took me a while to pick up. I should have watched this movie, I think, with subtitles. Thinking back, and maybe would have picked up on more.
I watch every movie with subtitles, like I said.
There's a couple names where I just kind of accepted that I didn't fully hear it. But yeah, so I liked how they almost seemed like really good parents to their kids. Like even Pando, like when he was
Mhm.
at home and he was like doing the arts and crafts with his
Mhm.
son before he went to go kill Jimmy. It's like all of these like kind of really bad people, but like you get to also see a good side of them. I thought that was cool. I really like that about it. But that was the last little tidbit on it, was the parenting stood out.
Well, and I kind of think to the scene where Heath Ledger is leaving and the little girl's coming in, and there's that great Powderfinger song playing, and it's almost like he's leaving and choosing the good, and she's coming in and choosing the bad.
Oh, I like that.
And it's like in that little tunnel section heading into the club, and
Mhm.
that's my favorite scene in the movie. Just them passing and a little bit of recognition, and like,
and right before it, because he has a gun pointed at him,
and
does
he chooses not to. Yep.
and then she walks in with a gun and chooses to.
Yes.
I like that a lot. Yeah,
Yeah, I like that a
think
whole
about
lot.
that passing.
Yeah, that may have just bumped up my score a little bit, actually.
Do you think that clicked for him, that she was the one that robbed him, or do you think he still has no idea?
I don't think
He kind of like took a, like, I feel like in the hallway he kind of took a second look at her and he paused and like almost thought about it. And I was wondering like maybe if he knew that this was like this kid was a little thief around town. I don't know if they knew each other.
There's no connection in the movie that I can remember.
No,
Okay.
but I think he got the vibe of what was going on. I mean, you saw when he was walking away and you heard the gunshots, he was like, I'm okay with this.
Yeah, and he didn't flinch. It wasn't like, holy, what's happening back there? It was just
So it's
Glad
just that he saw it in her eyes.
Yeah.
And said, and then they did show in her eyes at the end.
That was so 90s as well.
yes, very 90s, very, very 90s. I lost.
And with the brother at the start, that's how you zoomed in on his eyes as well. So
Yep.
good bookend.
I like that too. Now that you say it, because they show it in her eyes and she's the one that does, and she pulls the trigger, chooses evil, and they never showed it in Heath Ledger's eyes.
Mhm.
I like it.
Dang it, I don't remember. I had what may have been an insightful comment, and I just don't have it anymore. Let's see. Funny moments. You mentioned that earlier. If you have
Yeah,
any more of
yeah.
those.
Well, so one of the ones that I wrote down that made me actually laugh pretty hard was the it was so short, but it was so key to this whole plot, was the lady with the cigarettes that he was bringing the money to. How she was just coughing a lung up, and then she was just like, and as she's coughing, I thought she was gonna be like grabbing something else, but she just grabs a cigarette, and right when she lights the cigarette and takes like a puff barely, she's like, oh, much better.
And it just continues to die.
Yeah, but like
No.
that scene to me, that was one scene that I actually laughed at, because I was just, it's not what I expected, was her to pull out a cigarette and then feel relief.
That scene reminded me of a little arc from Sopranos, or I guess it was just an episode in Sopranos when Burt Young was in there. Paulie from Rocky. He was the exact same way. He was like a smoker, and like I think he just got out of like chemo or something, and Tony asked him to do a job, and he was like trying to kill this guy, and he was just like coughing up a lung, finally killed him, and just started to smoke again, and then just died. And I was like, he just loved his cigarettes so much he didn't even care.
Other things that were funny.
I knew this comment was coming.
What is Sopranos?
Sage, have you started Sopranos yet? I know you tried to watch the first one,
Started it, and I wasn't mentally prepared for it.
and you're still not mentally prepared for it. That was like weeks ago.
Yeah, no, it was like 2 weeks ago. With multiple, but like
I
the
said
minimum
weeks.
of
I didn't say
multiple
the script
weeks.
amount of weeks.
Yeah, like the minimum. Not yet. In time, I will, but not
Okay.
yet.
Let's see. Other funny. I think we've covered most of my funny moments.
Yeah, I think there was just other like little lines that I mean, it was just all the banter between mostly the. I think that like them playing Scrabble was very funny. I think that's
Yeah.
kind of
Scrabble
And
and chess.
The guy's like
Yeah,
finally
Queen's
about
fucked.
to beat him in something, and he's like, "Oh, your queen's fucked," and he's just like, "God, damn it, kill him!"
yeah. I like that the gangsters. Oh, it almost reminded me of what was the other one that we watched?
The
was
guard.
it the guard? Yeah, where like the evil people were
They're
all talking
smart
about
and
like,
cunning.
philosophical like
Yeah.
ideas, and yeah, they're all like almost kind.
Yeah.
And I like
And
how
the
yeah,
good
this
guys
is a
were oafs.
similar idea where like these gang members were all playing Scrabble and like and playing chess against each other and being very like polite to each other. But yeah, it's funny.
I think one of the funniest things that got me was them talking about how all the guards at banks are fat. And then
Yeah.
it shows like the guard at that bank, and he's just like, ugh.
And she said something. He's like, he's not old, but he's fat and he's thick as a brick or something. And you see him, and you're just like, "Oh yeah, that is a very apt description of that guy." You're like, you can just tell from him. He doesn't. He looks like an offensive lineman would look like just kind of one of those like big old brutes that doesn't really quite understand the whole thinking aspect of life.
Yeah, I'm not sure if he ever realized they were getting robbed.
No.
So wasn't he down on the ground though? Did they knock him out?
I
No,
think
he
they
didn't.
No, I think he just got down.
Yeah.
Oh.
Unwillingly.
That's even
They're kind
funnier.
of like
I thought he
carrying
got
out,
knocked out.
yeah, when they were carrying out the one that apparently got knocked out, he was down on the ground and almost looked like he was passed out. I was like, oh, did he get knocked out?
No, I think he was just like, they told me to get down, so I'm just going to stay
I'm
here. I
doing
don't really want to die. Well, and any other final thoughts before we get into scores here?
I just wanted to talk about Pando and like
Yes.
what a fantastic like character that was. Like Brian Brown is amazing, and like just the way he plays that is like this hard gangster but like family man, and he's like threatening without raising his voice. Like that scene where he walks up to Rose Byrne and gives her the money to get the cab, like that was just so like menacing without any sort of threat of violence.
Yep.
I love Rose Byrne. When
He's great.
that like last scene where she was just like couldn't stop laughing, I was just like, she's so charming.
Adorable.
She's
Mhm.
very
Mhm.
cute. But yeah, I really loved him as like a gangster character because I think like it as far as I can imagine making a movie like this, and when you're kind of creating the characters, it'd be really easy to just make this person so aggressive and so violent that like it's easy to fear them for a lot of reasons.
Mhm.
But it'd be really hard to make you like almost like them while you hate them. And I think that's when like they do a really good job of like I almost like him as and even what's his face Jimmy makes like that comment throughout the whole movie where he's just like he's a good bloke.
If you get to know him, he's a
Mhm.
good guy.
Yeah, he's a good guy if you get to know him. He's like he takes care of you. He does all and like so I like that I think that's like the best way to paint this picture of like this mobster gangster is a well-hearted but intense, and I think menacing is like kind of like that. Just he walks up and the way he talks and the way he presents himself just kind of gives off this like authoritarian kind of presence, and everybody just accepts it. And he is scary in his own way, even though he doesn't have a gun with him when they're gonna go kill the guy, and he's just like, "Where's a gun? God." And they're like,
Sage, any-
this is where we killed Michael, and he was just like, "Is it?" And like, I like how they like take that moment to be like, "Oh yeah, I guess it is." Huh? Weird.
do you have any final thoughts before scores, Sage, or do you want to save it for your score?
I was just gonna say I had a funny personal Rose Byrne moment when she was crying. It reminded me of Bridesmaids when she was like, "I'm an ugly crier," and I was like, "That is an ugly crier," but you're gorgeous, Rose Byrne, so don't even worry about it. I'm ugly without doing anything, so we're good.
We're on video now. You can't lie to the people like that anymore, Sage. we can't call ourselves ugly. We're all very attractive young men on this podcast right now, all four of us.
Sure.
Got to get that confidence boost. Okay, let's move into some scores here. From the aggregators, a 7.1 out of 10 on IMDb, a 71% from Rotten Tomato, and Metacritic hates Australians because they do not have this movie rated.
What?
Yeah, I
Wow.
went to actual Metacritic.com, searched it. They've got iPad games called Two Hands. They've got video games. It's just
I think this
Well,
makes us
not
better than
this
Metacritic then.
Metacritic I lost a lot of respect with Metacritic after Melancholia. That was
Oh
like
my gosh. Sexy
massive,
beast.
massive problem.
Michael's another one.
Well, I think this might be the first like Two Hands podcast. Like I did a quick search to see like what other people might have said about it, and nothing.
I tried to find
So
I
we're
mean,
gonna blow up in Australia. Did you hear
that's
about
what I like
Taiwan?
to hear. We've
Yeah.
hit Guernsey.
Taiwan.
We've hit Taiwan. Now it's time to go for like a actual country that like
actual
huge. That was more in reference to Guernsey, not
Yeah,
Taiwan. I'm
Guernsey.
sorry if you're still listening. You're not. I see the numbers.
But yeah, that I tried to look up things because I like to look up, especially on some of these movies where like it seems like there's a lot more of like a deeper meaning and intention behind the plot or the characters. I like to look it up afterwards and see what people have said, but I couldn't find anything. Like
No.
nobody, like I haven't even on usually like Wikipedia has something that like people have said. They didn't have anything. Usually there's articles. I couldn't find like a single thing that's like a critic's review.
I found one website that had like all of the like Sydney papers at the time,
Mm.
but that was it. There's the Wikipedia, and that's about it.
What do you?
There
So
are a total of 5 things on the trivia section in IMDb, which are in IMDb is like crowdsourced. So that's crazy. So we are now the premier source for your Two Hands knowledge for people out there in the universe. So.
We're like the pearly gates of Two Hands. We're like, let us introduce you to this fantastic movie. I love you, Taiwan. I love you. And I
So-
want to meet you.
real quick question before you get into like some final scores because this just popped up in my head. Did you go see this movie when it came out? Like, I mean, in theaters when you were 15 or?
No, like it was like rated MA-15, but I don't think I was quite 15 when it came out.
Mm.
So I think I missed it by a little bit, but I think I got it on DVD like 2000, 2001.
I was going to ask if you remember any kind of like buzz around the film in Sydney when it did come out.
Just a little bit because it was like a good Australian movie. Like at that point, we didn't have many like good, homegrown Australian movies. Like Mad Max is kind of an Australian movie, but filmed a lot of overseas and stuff like that. But this and like Crocodile Dundee were like the first two like Australian hits, I guess.
What about The Man from Snowy River?
I mean, that's super popular in Australia, but I don't think it got. I mean, there's like shows you can go where like you see like actual horses and stuff.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, and I did see
Yes.
that it said that it won some things on AFI.
Australian Film Institute.
That's what I figured it was, but I was like, could be a lot of things like,
Yeah.
but that's what I assumed.
None for Heath Ledger. I think everyone else
Heath Ledger?
cleaned up. I think the one that surprised me the most was the music, because like other than that Powderfinger song, like I didn't really care much for the music or
Mhm.
the sort of jazz sort of sounding stuff, but it got lots of awards for that.
Wow, Heath Ledger got snubbed.
Well, and he got snubbed. I think Hugh Jackman's first movie came out that same year, and I think he won. So it was
Another tough
worthy opponent.
Yeah.
As long as it goes to a worthy opponent.
Yep.
That's fair. Okay, are we ready for scores now?
Yeah. Ready?
Okay. I think I am going to give this movie an 83. I enjoyed it a lot. Just the beginning is the only thing that kind of drags it down a little bit for me. And I do want to clarify it's not because of this, but my picture quality on Amazon Prime of this movie was not great. It was okay when like the camera was still, but when it was like kind of moving, Like it wasn't that it was like blurry, it was that it was like pixelated, and I think it was just had to do with the digital transfer of it. So I'm not holding that against the movie, but just had to point it out.
Sage, do you want to go?
Sure. I am unfortunately going to say the exact same score.
You're dead to me, Nip.
That is rude, Michael.
I'm going to give it an 83 out of 100 as well. I think it's a very strong. So, Nate, I do like stars. So it's a 4 out of 5 stars for me, but it's a strong 4 out of 5 stars. So I have to like do some numbers in my head, calculus, get it to the 83. But yeah, I think we didn't even really get into characters and actors very much. But I thought all the characters were very sound and each played their own perfect role into making sure the plot was executed well. And I think the acting was overall very well done. I think it was a very surprising movie because you don't hear about many Australian movies being successful. And when I saw Jacob's text that this is what we're watching, I was like, oh, cool. I can say that I've seen like an Australian kind of born movie. And now I'm like, why haven't I seen it earlier? Like this movie should be on, as far as moviegoers go, it should be on every moviegoer's list.
Very nice. But before you go, Tate, I would like this. This makes me happy because I was just kind of speaking out of my ass there. Garrison said still camera works better for crappy compression. So I'm onto something where it looks better when the camera's still and looks all pixelated and whatnot when it's kind of moving around. So it is something with the digital transfer. But Tate, your score.
So I love this movie, and I think even talking through it more with you, Nate, it's gone even up for me. I was gonna probably give it an 85, but I'm gonna go with a 90. I really like this movie. I think there's a lot of reasons. I mean, when I lived in Australia, I love Australia. I want to go back, and even spend I could spend years there. I really like Australia. And I think knowing more about the background of this being like kind of a very early movie or first movie for a lot of these up and coming actors, and it's just like Sage had, Australia homegrown film. I think it's really cool hearing that it depicts life kind of growing up in Sydney pretty well. And I think like everything from how well they tie together all the story. Like, I mean, as far as just like basics go with like plots, characters, like you said, acting was kind of the one thing that I don't think was too impressive for it, but I mean, it wasn't bad. It was fine.
It didn't pull the movie down.
No.
It just kind of was as good as it needed to be. And yeah, so I overall really liked it.
I am so happy. Like when I gave this movie, like, you know, my other movie, I was thinking it was my favorite movie ever. And I was like, no, I can't do that. Because if they hate it, like I couldn't bear to hear them just tear it apart. So I was like, well, like Two Hands is kind of safe, I think. Like if they hate it, I can live with it. But to hear these scores it makes me happy. Now I'm just going to listen to the like recap one where you go back and change your scores and see what you say when I'm not around. But
we've got another year for that. So
it's unlikely.
It always could go up after that too.
The only person that should change their score is Tate, because he's always like on a movie high and he's like, God, I love this movie. And then like literally a week later, he'll text us and say, I shouldn't have rated that movie that
Yeah,
much.
just a couple of days ago, he texted us. He's like, you're right. Melancholia is like a 17.
Bullshit. No, Melancholia is one that's going to go up. This one might even go up. No, I do have like a post-movie high a lot of times. If the movie's good, I think then I feel really good afterwards. But no, I think that I have no problem staying at 90. This is a great Australian film.
I should also say that my grandma surprise watched this with me, and this, in hindsight, I probably would not have recommended to my grandmother, even though she loves Australia and she lived in Australia for a while. She loved it. She was like, this movie's great. And she apparently went back to my aunt and uncle and told them about it and like got them to want to watch it. So And
Your
that was
grandma
surprising.
surprises me every single day.
Me
Hey, she's
too.
got good
When I was
taste.
watching with her, I was like, she's gonna get up and leave because she's gonna hate it. But no, she loved the movie. She thought it was great.
Did
So Nate,
did you give us a score, Nate?
no,
Okay.
Oh,
I-
shoot.
I
Whoops.
think, I mean, I love this movie, so I'm going to give it a 92.
Nice. Okay.
92.
I like it. Okay. Let's see here.
well, and I almost don't want to ask in case that we ever have you back on and you end up picking it, but I am curious to know what like your favorite movie of all time is.
Never Ending Story.
Oh, I've never seen it.
Oh man,
I've
I've
it's
seen
been
that
in our
movie
shuffle.
100 times.
It's been on our shuffle every time that we've asked for movies for the listener's choice one.
I think that's me every time.
Yep, that it is.
Because you can tear it apart when I'm not there, but I'd just be sitting here crying if you did. So.
Okay, let's see here. Let me average these out because I need a calculator because I don't know how to do math. So that is going to be an average score of 87. Nate, where do you want people to follow you on like Letterboxd and Twitter and whatnot?
Yeah.
Okay,
on,
let's hear it then.
on Twitter at Aussie_Nate. And I think it's the same on Letterboxd, or maybe it's just Nathan Johnston on Letterboxd, but those are the two places to find me.
Perfect. And then you can email us at gd4ampodcast@gmail.com. You can also follow us on Twitter at gd4gd_movies, or you can follow us on Instagram at gd4gd.movies. And also please leave us a 5-star review on iTunes and leave us a 5-star rating on Spotify. And if you don't do these things,
I'm gonna send Pando after you. I don't know. I got nothing.
that was rough. That was rough.
I didn't think it through. I didn't think.
Sage, can you save it?
I'm gonna make you homeless. No, that's too dark. Damn it. I'm out. I went too dark.
Got anything?
I'll drive you off the road when you're trying to give me 10 grand.
Oh,
There we go. I like it. I
Boom.
like it. All right, folks. We will catch you next week at the movies. And
Nice.
then thank you, everybody, for joining. Goodbye. Not you.